From the ReliefFactor.com studios, this is America First with Sebastian Gorka.
It may have been James Jesus Angleton, the former head of counterintelligence for the CIA, who coined the phrase a wilderness of mirrors with regards to the espionage and counter-espionage world that he lived in. But I think it applies to the last 70 days in America and what is happening on our southern border. A wilderness of mirrors, lies, propaganda, and those who want to stop people like Senator Cruz from getting to the truth. What's really going on? When I want answers to those questions, I go to a good friend of America First, fellow at the Center for Immigration Studies. He is the author of the latest work, America's Covert Border War. He's Todd Bensman. Follow him at Bensman Todd on Twitter. Todd, welcome back to America First.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, so you've got a piece at CIS.org. We're going to post it on our Twitter and Facebook feeds. We'll talk about the title of it and why it's so important. But let's just paint a picture from my point of view as someone who's not an expert on immigration. You tell me what's wrong about it and what's missing. So right now, it seems as if, the dinner gong has been rung. The border is open. Thousands are flooding through every day. They're being pushed into these, they're no longer detention facilities, they're influx centers next to each other without COVID testing. They're seeking asylum when they really have zero proof of political persecution. The minors in many cases have no documentation at all, so we don't even know if they're truly minors. And then they're just released into America. Am I missing something? Is that a misrepresentation, Todd?
Well, yeah, that's what's happening. Tens of thousands of family units and underage migrants, and I'll put air quotes around underage, are pouring over the border. The other part of that is where they're going. They are boarding buses. They're boarding Greyhounds. They're being put onto chartered buses. There is a constant flow of maybe 30,000 by my count so far to places like Indiana, Michigan, Florida, New Jersey, 6-7 other states as well. They are now dispersing to American communities, and they will be dispersing like this on these buses. I call it catch and bus for as long as this goes on. I predict 3.5, 4 years more at least.
That's the title of his piece, Catch and Bus. Thousands of freed border-crossing immigrants are dispersing across America. Download it, read it now if you want the truth. Do you have any information, Todd? Is there any pushback? Is there any reaction from the communities that are having these immigrants sent to them by the federal authorities? Do they even know what's going on? Or is there just a blackout on the operations of the Biden-Harris administration?
The operation of busing people across the country, these immigrants fresh off the border, that is a black operation, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it. Definitely not advertising that. I don't think these communities have any idea that this is happening. I think the ethnic communities, like Haitian communities in Florida, are well aware of it. Cuban communities are well aware of it, and Venezuelans as well. That seems to be who makes up the majority of these, but plenty of Central Americans are busing in too. I've been on the buses. I've seen them. I've talked to the migrants, the immigrants who are on them, and the people arranging for their transportation. So,
tell us about those conversations. Let's share with our millions of listeners and viewers. What are those conversations like? Are these people escaped from political prisons? Are these people in fear of their lives? How did they get here? Who did they pay? Just give us some of the ground sense of what's really going on, Todd.
Well, it's a spectrum as to how the immigrants got here. A lot of them actually were living pretty well in places like Chile and Ecuador and Brazil, living and working for years until they heard that the Biden administration was opening the door. And so they uplifted those lives and came through the door. Others heard about the Biden border, and decided that now was a great time to cross. They were hearing from the people on the buses who were tapping into their cell phones. Everybody has cell phones saying, "I'm in," and
Wow.
driving in. So word of that gets downstream, and the families and neighbors and relatives all come as well. And so
One specific question. Have you ever seen anybody wearing one of those "Let Us In President Biden" t-shirts? And if you have, any idea where they get them from?
No, I didn't see. I was just in Mexico last week, several days on the Mexican side. I did not see that. But what I did do is I interviewed a lot of immigrants who were preparing to come over, and asked them why. At one point, I had like 7 of them in front of me, and I said, "Hey, all of you who came here encouraged by the Biden administration, now raise your hand." And every one of them immediately did that. I have a videotape of that. But I think that's really what's going on. You have to talk to the immigrants themselves about why they're coming and how they're coming, and they'll tell you. They're not hiding it.
He's a fellow with the Center for Immigration Studies. Follow him at Bensman Todd. The latest article is titled "Catch and Bust." That is what the Biden administration is doing. He's going to be with us for one more segment here on America First and the Salem Radio Network. If you want to make a difference, we can't go down there and stand on the border with a gun and be Customs and Border Protection. We can help the families in need in our hemisphere so they don't hand their children over to the drug smugglers, the cartels, and the coyotes. Please support the last day of our Food for the Poor campaign. Listen to Angela Loma, the Vice President of Food for the Poor, as to why this is so very, very important.
Now, if these kids were in your neighborhood and they knocked on your door and they said, we are dying of hunger, can you help us? I know that every single American would open their doors and feed them. And I am confident because the listeners have been so generous so many times before this. They'll open their hearts and open their wallets because children like these are all over the place in Honduras, and we have to help.
No child anywhere should suffer. This is the one thing we can do right now to try and make those caravans smaller. Food for the Poor is feeding 1 million mouths every single day, thanks to you, in more than a dozen countries. The last chance today to make a difference, to save a life. Go to sebgorka.com. That's our webpage, SEBGORKA. Click on the Food for the Poor banner at the top, or call them directly at 855-330-HOPE. That number, 855-330-4673. A donation in any amount makes a difference. But think of this. A one-time donation of $37 will feed one of these starving children for 6 months. Yes, they have the food. They just need to get it to them. $111. Can you afford $111? Will feed one of these groups of 3 children for 6 months. Be a modern missionary. Be a guardian angel. sebgorka.com. That's SEBGORKA. sebgorka.com, and the Food for the Poor banner at the top. Back after these messages. Sadly, we're living under a Biden-Harris administration. What does it mean for your finances? More debt, more regulation, more money printing, less growth, and higher taxes. The importance of owning physical gold and silver has never been greater. Call the veteran-owned Midas Gold Group today to get their guide to owning bullion and coins. Call 480-360-3000 or go to MidasGoldGroup.com.
Portions of America First are brought to you in part by Salem Now and Church People.
Mike Lindell, Warrior for the Truth, amazing CEO success story, will be with us next here in America First. If you haven't done so already, please support him. More than 20 companies are trying to boycott his MyPillow products. Send the cancel culture fascists on the left a message. Go straight to his website, mypillow.com. Use my name for up to 66% off his more than 100 incredible products, including his new lambskin slippers. Superb. I even wear them, and I'm not a slipper kind of guy, as you may have guessed. Call 800-829-8468, mypillow.com. That's 800-829-8468, mypillow.com. But you've got to use the secret code GORKA for those massive, massive discounts. He is fellow with the Center for Immigration Studies, author of America's Covert Border War, Todd Bensman. Welcome back to America First. Todd, right now, for the last 70 days, we've kind of focused on the incompetence angle of border policy under Biden and the tragic humanitarian angle, the children, the suffering, that girl who almost drowned, the regular deaths of people dying on these multi-week, multi-month journeys. Can you enlighten our listeners and viewers to the national security aspect of all of this?
Well, about a week and a half ago, Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy returned with a delegation from New Mexico to visit the border there, and he reported what Border Patrol agents told him, that 3 Yemenis crossed that border who were on the U.S. terrorism watch list. The national media pounced on him, said he was a fear-mongering Republican conspiracy theorist. But the fact of the matter is that happened. And it happens all the time that people from countries like Yemen and Syria and Iraq and all the rest of the Middle East and places that are Muslim majority countries with terrorist organizations in them are coming through the Darien Gap of Panama, up through Mexico, Central America and Mexico with everybody else, and they're crossing that border with fair regularity, and they show up with no identification. We don't know who they are. They're not all watch listed like these guys. So the issue there is when you have a border that is being crashed like it is now, then the national security risk of that is elevating. The more Central Americans that are coming, the more babysitting that's being done by ICE and Border Patrol, the more dangerous it gets. I just point to Europe. And my book, America's Covert Border War, investigates and elaborates far more than I can on this show on all of it.
Todd, my parents were real refugees. My father escaped a political prison in a communist dictatorship. When they made it to a refugee camp, they were interrogated. I mean, interrogated by counterintelligence professionals for more than a month so that they could convince them that they weren't a threat to Western Europe. Are we doing any of that right now?
Yes, at the moment we are. That is one of the programs that I reveal in the book, America's Covert Border War. When 11 Iranians hit that border a couple of months ago in Arizona, I guarantee you that counterintelligence officers from several different agencies went down there and have interviewed and interrogated them. And that does happen. It doesn't happen at a 100% rate like it should, however. Maybe a third of them are being actually interviewed. There are a whole lot that are not interviewed. There's no time to interview them before they bond out. And that gets even worse when you have the border crashing like it is right now and everybody's involved in, babysitting and taking care of children and doing welcome reception, manning welcome reception centers all along the border. It's not a good time for that operation, and I hope that they're paying attention to it at the White House.
It's a different set of vocabulary that Todd uses. Why? Because there's a mainstream narrative that does not provide any reflection of the truth. If you look at phrases that he's using in our interviews today, border crashing, that's exactly what they're doing. They're flooding and overwhelming our capacity, meaning the really bad guys, the drug smugglers, the terrorists, the arms smugglers, can get across unimpeded as the CBP and others are changing diapers or whatever it is that they're limiting limited in doing because of the way they've been handcuffed by this administration. Likewise, the phrase catch and bust, not just catch and release, but catch and bust. Check out his latest article. It's on our social media pages, and his book, America's Covert Border War. He is with CIS. Follow him at Bensman Todd on Twitter. Keep revealing the truth. Thank you, Todd. I'm Sebastian Gorka. This is America First on the Salem Radio Network.